In this chapter, I'll be showing you how to arrange a peak time techno track. There's so many different ways you can arrange a techno track, and no one way is right or wrong. So it just all comes down to your personal preference. So let's jump into Ableton, and we're not going to overthink this. So what I'm going to do is, since we already have our drop 1 written, I'm just going to highlight the entirety of drop 1. And then I'm going to hit Command L so we can set our loop marker. I'm going to click the loop marker, and then I'm just going to make sure everything is highlighted. And then I'm going to option drag this section all the way over to the beginning of our song. So that should copy everything over as is. You just need to make sure automation lock is off, which it is. So then if we press play, it should sound exactly like our drop. So obviously we don't want our intro to start off with the acid pattern just going full force. So if we open up our drop synths, we can just highlight this acid pattern and press delete. So now if we listen, it's just the drums, it's just the bass. So now this entire section really does feel more like an intro, especially when you have the actual drop in context with the acid pattern. This is just a nice way to introduce all the themes of our song. So now let's listen to this whole section, and I'm just going to be listening to hear if anything else needs to be deleted or added. Okay, and I think we can delete this first stab. To me, it just sounds like too many things being introduced at once, so we'll save that for the drop. Let's listen again. I like the stab there though. Operate, dominate, elevate, generate. Okay, I think we can take out this vocal because we haven't like even introduced it at all. So to me, it kind of just comes out of nowhere. So let's go ahead and delete that. And I think we can leave these verse vocals in there because I think this will do a nice job of introducing that vocal. One other thing I'm hearing is for this reverse right here, I think there's just too much of a reverb tail after the reverse happens. So let's just bring up our automation lane and we'll just automate this down for the time being. Much better. And I think what I want to do is filter out these verse vocals so they introduce more filtered. So let's add an auto filter to this section, and we're going to click on our cutoff, and we'll make a point in the beginning, and then we can make a point at the end that's a little higher. So let's drag this first point down to like 800. Okay, I think that sounds good. I think we can take this reverse bass though that ends at bar 16 and we can extend that so it sweeps into intro 1.3 because we don't have the vocal sample there during the dropout, so it just sounds like a bit empty. So let's listen to that. And we have this automation that's turning everything down on the drop synths. So let's just delete this point so it kind of drops out for a little and then ramps back up. And we can have that go up a little bit sooner. And that's a little bit too much. Let's Command Z that. Maybe we'll just give a curve like that. Okay, that sounds good to me. So according to our arrangement, we need 2 more sections here. And I think that's definitely what it needs, because if we just went right into the reverse from this section, it would go from max energy into like this really mellowed out emotional section. And I think we need like 16 bars in between those two just to transition into that emotional section. I think all I want to do is I'm just going to approach it just like I did with the drop. I'm going to select from intro 1.3 into intro 1.5, hit Command L. I'm going to make sure that all the elements are selected by clicking the loop region. And then I'm going to option drag over into this section right here. So this definitely sounds too repetitive, so we absolutely need to fix the transition going from intro 1.4 into intro 1.5. I think we don't need to have this like 1 bar gap. To me, it just completely cuts the energy and then it starts up again. It just sounds really weird. So let's just extend the kick out, and we can extend the hats out. Maybe not all the way. Maybe they'll stop halfway through the bar. And I think we can just loop these fills as well. Like we don't need the fills to stop. So we'll just copy that over. Let's listen to this section now. Let's see, do we have other stuff dropping out? So maybe we could take this reverse just like we did earlier in the intro, drag it all the way to the end of the section. Okay, and you know what's cutting out? It's the bass. So let's unfreeze the bass and we'll extend this out, maybe to halfway through bar 32. And we can extend this clap loop as well. Okay, and I think what we can do is maybe add 1 more melodic element to transition into this section. So let's go into our drop synths and we'll make a new MIDI track, and then we'll add a serum. So I'm going to zoom in and let's make a 1 bar MIDI clip at the end of intro 1.4. And let's just listen to this section one more time and see if we can come up with any ideas. Let's start by turning this track down like -10 because it might be really loud. And let's make sure that our scale fold is enabled and we're in the correct key, and that's A sharp minor, so we're good there. Maybe we can end it on... Okay, that's cool. And it definitely needs some spatial effects, so let's add an echo. And let's turn on ping pong mode. And I think I want to automate the dry wet of this echo up as the pattern comes to a close. And maybe instead of dotted eighth notes, we can try regular eighth notes. That's cool. And then let's add some reverb and some OTT, because why not? Turn the amount down, the time up, and the output up a little. And then let's just add an EQ to make sure we're cutting out all the extreme lows. So now let's listen to what this sounds like. The That sounds awesome. I just love that it's a sound that hasn't happened before, so it really breaks up the repetitiveness of the track. One other thing I'm hearing is it's starting to sound repetitive when these vocals come back in filtered. So I'm actually going to turn on the automation lock and just delete the first half of this pattern. Just because I think it could sound cool after that synth fill happens, it just goes back into the drums and everything else, but doesn't have the vocal, because I want to like build out of this section. So we're going to start stripping some elements away. So let's listen from intro 1.4. Okay, and I think we can take out some of these stabs. So I'm first gonna look at the rave stab. Let's put an auto filter on that, and maybe we can just filter this down for intro 1.5. So we'll make a general shape like this. Okay, so we definitely need to filter these vocals down. Okay, I think this is coming along. One thing that we can do, which is a trick I always do that, I mean, a lot of people do, is we can go to this kick and we can turn on this high pass for not just the end of a phrase, but let's turn it on for the entirety of this intro 1.6, because that way there's going to be no more bass, because by stripping away the bass, it's going to signal to your brain that we're moving into another section because we're just taking away energy. Maybe let's try taking away the clap too. Now that's a little too jarring for me. But maybe what we could do is automate this volume down, because what we have in the verse is we're automating the clap volume up. So maybe rather than just cutting it out hard, we can automate it down. So let's go to this utility that we have on this track, and we'll make a point at the beginning of intro 1.6, and then we'll just make a couple points like this and drag it down. I think that automates down a little too fast, so let's drag this point out and maybe give it a curve. Let's continue. There's still too much of a drop off of energy right here, so let's just continue out all of these hat loops. So I'm going to select all and drag. And then we're going to do the same thing with this reverse. We're going to drag it all the way to the end, and let's listen again. Okay, that sounds pretty good. Let's just make sure this crash, this reverse crash, is stretched out as long as possible, because I want this reverse crash to feel like a little bit more epic than the rest. We might need some effects, some effects transitions going into this part, but let's just go ahead and let's listen to the entire intro, what we have now, and we'll decide if we need that or not. Okay, so that sounds really good to me so far. We definitely need to add some more finesse on the transition into verse 1.1, but I know it's gonna work.